On behalf of Foundation for India and Indian Diaspora Studies, I, Khanderao Kand, Director of FIDS, would like to welcome you to today's session of Contours of a New Cold War. FIDS is a US-based policy think tank. FIDS work on US-India relations, India and Indian diaspora-related policy matters, and world affairs. We are fortunate to have today with us Shri Ram Madhavji. Shri Ram Madhavji is a prominent strategic thinker from India. He is a General Secretary of Bharatiya Janata Party, a leading party in India. He is a founding director of India Foundation, New Delhi, which is a influential think tank. He is a frequent speaker in various conferences and universities all over the world. He is engaged in various policy dialogues at various levels with experts and policymakers all over the world. He is the author of Uneasy Neighbors, India and China. I would like to welcome Shri Ram Madhavji. Thank you.
Thank you, Khanderao. My namaskars to all the participants. Many of you I'm seeing after a very long time. My respectful namaskars to Ved Nandaji. I haven't met Nandaji for a very long time, I believe, but some of the others I have bumped into in the last 1 or 2 years on various occasions. Let me briefly talk about a few issues that are bothering not just India, but all of us. It appears that the COVID has exacerbated the tensions in the entire world. You are facing lots of problems in your country, in the USA. We see a lot of things happening in our own neighborhood here. Suddenly, there seems to be many things happening all over the world. There is certainly a growing talk about the new Cold War-like situation that is unfolding. Nobody wants it. We definitely don't want it for a very important reason, that unlike the last Cold War, which was fought in the last century between the two superpowers, namely the United States of America and the USSR. Unlike that Cold War, if at all this so-called new Cold War-like situation becomes a reality, it is going to be fought in our own backyard, in our own neighborhood. Obviously, we don't want it. But unfortunately, the two main protagonists in this so-called emerging new Cold War-like situation are both behaving in a manner that would certainly put lot of pressure, lot of strain on the rest of the world, especially on the middle powers, I would say. When I say middle powers, I'm talking about countries like India, Japan, Australia, a few countries in Europe. I would see these countries to be the real leaders in the 21st century. We have seen big power rivalries driving the global politics in the last century. The geopolitical reality in 21st century is going to be markedly different from that of the last century, of the 20th century. When the big powers were fighting, all the other powers in the world used to either join one of the camps, or in the case of countries like India, we had created a third group. We called it non-aligned movement. NAM, by its very name, was neither here nor there group. Let me tell you, I'm afraid we no longer have such kind of a luxury in the 21st century unfolding scenario. By stating so, I'm not saying that every country will be forced to join one camp or the other. I'm not at all saying that. But what I'm trying to say is that these two big powers in the world today, the US and China, the way they are conducting the affairs in their own countries, although it is not necessarily the immediate botheration of other countries, but in the rest of the world, definitely calls for the middle powers to come together to work out a different and a new strategy. India is very keen that in the 21st century, these powers should come together to play a greater role. We are living in a geographical region which is the most significant region today in the 21st century, namely the Indo-Pacific region. It is the most happening region for many reasons. It is here that the global power axis has shifted in 21st century. In the last century, probably the global power was situated somewhere in the Pacific Atlantic region between Western Europe and America. But today, power doesn't lie there. It lies in our own neighborhood. It is here in the Indo-Pacific that you have markets. You have countries with strong and growing economies. It is here that trade happens. In fact, 70% of the global container trade passes through Indo-Pacific today. It is here that the oil lines are very energy lines are very important. It is here that the growing militaries are there. It is here that you will find from 10 years from now, if you want to see submarines, you have to come to Indian Ocean or Indo-Pacific. Maximum number of submarines roaming in this region. So we are talking about countries that are in that region. And it is here that the new Cold War is slowly evolving, unfolding. So countries like India are certainly looking at a scenario where we become active participants in deciding about the destiny of our region. The new tensions between these two countries, the US and China, how far they will go, whether on the US side, they will be ultimately a poll rhetoric, the election rhetoric, and things will settle down after the election, or things will further exacerbate, further become further strained, is for the entire world to watch, basically wait and watch. But in our neighborhood, the way China is conducting its own affairs is certainly causing certain unnecessary situations. Not just for India. For example, yesterday we have had a summit level, a prime minister level meeting between the prime ministers of India and Australia. Australia is another country which is feeling the heat of the Chinese very aggressive behavior today. Now, I joined very late. I do not know what all discussions happened before I joined. But certainly from the couple of questions that I heard, I realized that you were probably talking about the reasons behind this behavior. It's a known that there is an element of aggression in China's behavior. But aggression because of what? What is the objective? And is this aggression really helping that country? These are some of the big questions that probably the Chinese leadership themselves have to, pause for a moment and think about. You know, the so-called wolf warrior diplomacy, about which so much is being written and talked about these days. Is it really helping them? Or is it actually leading to a great trust deficit being created across the world? I mentioned about Australia. Until a couple of years ago, very closely linked with China. huge trade relationship. In fact, the trade relationship between Australia and China is double that of the trade relationship between India and China, where our trade relationship stands at about $100 billion. Australia-China trade relationship is $200 billion. But yet why Australia today wants to come out of it? And why would China precipitate it? So these are the things that we also have to take into account when you talk about, why is China doing something on India's borders? It's not just doing something on India's borders alone. Yes, something is happening on India's borders. It's a bilateral issue, we will tackle it. What we will likely do, I will not be able to talk too much about it. It's not the policy of the government. But let me tell you one thing. Whether China really played out its plan fully is a big question that is really bothering some of us. What was the whole purpose? What was the intention? Maybe certain other global factors are influencing this behavior. Maybe. Why I'm saying this is because you have the luxury to, predict and analyze the behavior of other countries. So I will use that luxury when the 1962 war happened, some 50 years ago. That time, one of the reasons shown are cited by analysts was that the tension between the then Khrushchev regime in USSR and Mao's China, the tensions between those two countries, you all know that after 1956, between 1956 and 1966, 10 full years, Soviet Union and China had one of the worst phases in their relations, prompting China to call Khrushchev a revisionist. So why the attack on India happened was because China wanted to teach a lesson to the Soviets. India was perceived to be Soviets' close ally. So those were the kind of interpretations given by analysts. So trying to analyze the present scenario, what could be the thinking behind this behavior is, anybody's guess. I mean, we can come up with a number of guesses. Like just now I heard Jeff mentioning about one reason being India's declaration of India's annulment of Article 370. But the way things have developed on our borders give us a feeling that probably it was not a very well thought out move. As far as we are concerned, India has a clear position. We handle these issues bilaterally. What important policy change that Prime Minister Modi's government has effected since 2014 was that while when such situations arise, we will engage in a proactive diplomacy. Through proactive diplomatic channels, we will try to resolve those issues, but we will take a very strong ground posturing as well. There won't be any compromise with respect to India's territorial integrity. However, we will proactively engage with China in order to resolve these issues. So what will happen tomorrow is that at the level of lieutenant generals, the two countries will engage with each other. Simultaneously, at the diplomatic level also negotiations are happening. I am sure that both countries, the leadership on both sides will certainly make sure that things are sorted out in the near future. But this is only a temporary issue. The larger issue is about why these things are happening in our neighborhood, or for that matter in the world. That calls for greater inspection, greater interrogation. We all need to look at the kind of new world order that is actually emerging, and in that how countries are trying to play different roles. I'm not the one to believe that for all its talk about America first and all, America will have the neither the luxury nor the freedom to really become a big introvert. It will continue to play a role. It has important relationships across the world. In our own Indo-Pacific region, it has strong relationships with countries from Japan to Australia. It has its own role to play in the entire world, especially in the most happening region. Similarly, China over the last couple of decades has expanded its area of influence. That also cannot be completely denied. In our own region, China's depth of relationship is quite significant. As I mentioned, India itself has $100 billion bilateral trade. So is the case with a number of countries in our own region also. So while these two countries probably will continue to have a role to play, important role to play in the unfolding new global order, I definitely see much bigger role for, as I described earlier, for the middle powers. It is these middle powers that have to come together. In that, in fact, we give a lot of importance to our newly evolving relationship with countries like Australia in that scheme of things. India has always had very close relations with countries like Japan. Under Prime Minister Modi, we tried to build very strong relations with a number of other countries, including Vietnam, South Korea, Indonesia. These are all very important countries for us. Now, these countries have all to come together. It's not on the norm principle, neither here nor there principle, but it's on the principle that the world's most happening region has to be led, or the peace, inclusiveness, prosperity, and security of this region has to be actively handled by these countries. So that is the kind of new situation towards which the world is moving today. So in that larger context, we place the present, whatever issues we have with our neighbor, we place them in that context. When we put them in that context, we have every reason to believe that probably the whole thing has been prematurely played out. India will handle it. But the larger question remains as to whether China would be willing to review, reassess its own priorities and its own policies. As I asked earlier, whether this so-called aggression or so-called wolf warrior diplomacy, is it really helping them? Or in the long run, or probably in the short run also, it is going to harm their long-term interests, because as I said, in the new kind of situation that will emerge post the COVID, it is not going to be definitely just a power game between two big countries. The middle powers also are going to play a very significant role. I think I will stop here.